For all the latest updates, subscribe to News 9.
Hello and welcome to News 9 Digital with me, Adarsh Vepachedu. Now, armies of locusts have invaded various states in India. They have absolutely wreaked havoc on thousands of acres of farmland, ending up as a double whammy for the farmers. So where are these locusts coming from? Where are they headed next? And what is the magnitude of loss the farmers are incurring? We'll start with the basics. What are locusts? Well, they're considered to be the oldest migratory pests in the world, and out of the several types of locusts, the desert locusts are the most devastating ones. They're usually harmless and solitary when they are alone, or let's just say a few locusts together. They're not too harmful. But it is due to certain environmental conditions like prolonged monsoons, heavy cyclones, and so on and so forth that make them reproduce faster, and that is where the problem really begins. Now, when a few environmental conditions come together, we're talking about how they reproduce at almost 20 times the rate in just a span of 3 months. Now, with the rise in locust population, what happens is that their behavior too changes, and they go ahead, form swarms, and they damage crops, all in a bid to find food. So that's where the problem really arises. When you start seeing a few environmental changes, climate changes, that's what aids the reproduction of swarms. And when you have millions of swarms coming together, their behavior changes and they go on a destruction spree, so to speak. So how much does a locust usually consume? Well, it consumes equal to its weight, which is just about 2 grams. But that is not the clear picture. When we talk about 1 square kilometer of locust swarm, which contains anywhere about 40 to 80 million locusts, we're talking about how in a day's span they can cover anywhere between 130 and 150 kilometers, and they can consume food enough for 35,000 people. Now, again, it is pertinent to mention here that locusts do not really harm human beings, and they live anywhere between 3 and 5 months, which is variable depending upon a few weather conditions such as the temperature and of course the formation of cyclonic storms. Now, when it comes to 2019, we have seen 8 cyclones, which is usually 2 in every year, 3 in 2018, 2 in 2019, and all of these cyclones have somewhere down the line contributed to the current desert locust upsurge, especially in the Horn of Africa region, which is somewhere in East Africa, which is where the problem has taken root this time around. We're talking about how large swarms of locusts are already wreaking havoc in Ethiopia, Somalia, and Kenya. All of these are East African nations. So when it comes to India, what are the states that are worst affected by the locust swarms this time around? Well, several reports have indicated, and you have the Locust Warning Organization also stating that the current locust infestation that India is witnessing is the worst in as many as 26 years. Almost on a yearly basis during this time, especially during the beginning of the summer, we see locust invasion, locust infestation, if I were to call it that. But the sheer magnitude and the size of the locust infestation this time around is the biggest in as many as 26 years. It was on May 25th that the locust swarms entered Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Uttar Pradesh. And to this day, Rajasthan happens to be the state that is worst affected by the locust swarm. And we're talking about how typically in any given year the locust swarms are spotted between June and November, but this time around they were spotted in April. So that again is a cause of concern. And usually they are solitary or in small groups, but not this time around, and that is also a cause of concern. When it comes to Rajasthan, which happens to be the worst affected state due to the locust infestation, crops in more than 18 districts have been destroyed completely. And when it comes to Madhya Pradesh, more than 12 districts have been affected at this point in time. When it comes to the farmers in states like Gujarat and Punjab, even they have been alerted and they've been asked to prepare for the locust invasion. There are also reports doing the rounds that the locusts will eventually enter large parts of Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and even touch the national capital. But the Locust Warning Organization has come out and said that it is unlikely that the locust invasion will reach the national capital anytime soon, at least not this evening, not maybe tomorrow. But if in case the locusts do reach the national capital, we're talking about how over 20% of the national capital is green cover. So all of this could be at risk if in case locusts arrive in the national capital. Now, the current swarm, in fact, originated, as we were just discussing, in East Africa and reached India via Pakistan and Iran. Now, when we speak about India's response, what has India's response been to the locust invasion? India's primary response, like it is in every year, is essentially spraying small doses of insecticides or pesticides using vehicle-mounted and aerial sprayers. But this time around, given the magnitude of the problem and also a change in behavior of the locusts, they are now flying at a higher altitude compared to previous years. So a few changes from the locust end itself has prompted the government to give a slightly different approach to the locust infestation. This time around, you have a situation where the Union Agriculture Minister has requested the DGCA to permit use of planes that can in fact spray pesticides from a greater height. All of this because at this time, currently you have the locusts flying at a slightly higher altitude than usual. So given the fact that the current vehicles that are being used to spray pesticides and insecticides, they do not reach that kind of height. So you have a situation where you may as well have flights dropping or spraying insecticides on a large area, eventually killing these locusts. But that pesticides, again, the usage of pesticides on crops itself is a big no-no, is a big question mark as to how it affects the overall quality of the produce itself. What are the other countries that are affected by locusts? Now, the situation is extremely alarming, to say the least, in Eastern African countries such as Kenya, Ethiopia and Somalia. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan and India, you are seeing smaller swarms of locusts, but it is very alarming in the eastern part of Africa. That is where they originated, and they split into smaller swarms and flow eastwards into the Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Iran and Pakistan, eventually into India. They continue to flow eastwards, and that's how they are towards Delhi, the national capital, at this point in time. India, in fact, in a bid to react or tackle this problem in a more collaborated manner, India has reached out to Pakistan and Iran to see if they can work together and deal with this new crisis. In fact, at a time like this, when you already have the COVID-19 pandemic wreaking havoc on the lives of farmers, with them not being able to sell their produce, they now have another crisis in the form of locusts, at least the North Indian states. So it is indeed a double whammy for the farmers across North India. So if you've liked this video and if you really connect to the plight of the farmers and the kind of situation they're going through, do share this video with your friends. Let them know as to the kind of troubles that farmers are facing, especially in North India. And do share, like and subscribe to News9, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram as well. Many thanks for joining us. This is Adarsh Webachedu signing off.